Do you have to get insurance on a camper in McHenry, Illinois? Purchasing a motorhome is generally a more significant investment than purchasing a car. Nevertheless, when it comes to motorhome insurance in general, comprehensive cover costs much less than it would do for a car with a comparative value. Despite the fact that their size makes them much less nimble than smaller vehicles and the attached assumption that they're more likely to be at risk of an accident, motorhomes are generally regarded by insurers as a much safer bet than your average car. The reasons for this are fairly simple and also fairly apparent upon closer consideration. Compare how often people use their cars in their motorhomes, then compare how people drive in their cars and how they're likely to drive in their motorhome. Which do you think is more likely to lead to an accident and thus a higher rate of claims and a higher price for insurance? Because insurance companies work out their rates based on a huge array of national statistics and demographic information, the relatively small number of motorhome owners in comparison to car owners comes off in their favor. When you factor in other considerations, this equation works out even more favorably. For a start, very few inexperienced drivers buy motorhomes. You would be hard-pressed to find a newly qualified driver whose first purchase was a motorhome. Not only because of the price, the space they take up, or the fact that they are generally a considered investment, but also because depending on the size of your motorhome you may need an additional C-Class license to be legal for the road. This kind of regulation has an innate effect on the costs of insurance policies. Beyond this, though, the vast majority of UK-based recreational vehicles are owned by very experienced drivers who know to take due care on the road and won't be surprised by the bulk of situations they encounter. In short, boy racers and nervous, twitchy drivers don't own motorhomes. The other reason is that motorhomes are driven in a completely different way to other vehicles. Obviously, this doesn't refer to the actual mechanisms of the internal combustion engine, the highway code, or the methods of steering and acceleration. It refers to how often motorhomes are used and in what situation. Motorhomes are extremely unlikely to be taken into the high-risk environments that most car owners experience on a daily basis, namely the rush hour traffic in the middle of a busy and cramped city center. You'd have to be mad to use your motorhome to travel to work and back each day. Not only would it be expensive in terms of fuel and parking costs and gain some odd looks from your co-workers, it would also make you entirely ineligible for most providers of motorhome insurance. Most of them stipulate that you shouldn't drive your motorhome to and from work just in case the whim takes you. Additionally, motorhomes are at a substantially decreased risk of being stolen. They're fairly recognizable vehicles after all. If a thief does target your motorhome, then they'll probably be after your personal effects rather than the car. Luckily, this kind of cover is a fundamental part of most motorhome policies that are more comprehensive than third-party fire and theft. Effectively, the chances are that a motorhome will be driven by an experienced driver in a relaxed manner for little more than recreational purposes. A vehicle that you take on an extended trip a few times a year is a much safer bet for an insurer to take than practically any other car.